Buddy, my name's Chris. I'm an alcoholic. Wow, what a great crowd. This is a great meeting. I'd like to thank Vince for asking me to come up here. On or around December 28th, 1989, the grace of God separated me from alcohol for the last time, and for that I'm very, very grateful. The things that I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous and was willing to participate in helped me to stay in fit spiritual condition so that my higher power could work in and through me and keep me separated from alcohol. And I am very, very grateful for that. My home group is the Spiritual Awakenings Group in Burnsville, New Jersey. I'm very active in AA. As a matter of fact, this meeting is about at least an hour and 10 minutes away from my house. And when I walked in tonight, I knew about 20 people. So I've been around for a while, and I love Alcoholics Anonymous. Probably every single positive thing that's going on in my life today is a direct result of what Alcoholics Anonymous has offered me. I want to start with one of the earliest manifestations of what I believe was my alcoholism. And that took place the day my mother told me that I have to get in the car. She's taking me off to kindergarten. Now, I hadn't gotten out a lot much on my own by this time, so this was a little bit of a traumatic thing for me. And it was so long ago that it was actually a Packard automobile. I don't know if anybody here remembers the Packards. But she put me in the car and she drove me into town to the kindergarten place. And I remember her pulling up in the driveway, letting me out, saying, "There's the building," and taking off. And I'm standing on the top of this hill looking down, and what I saw was a bunch of kids just having a blast. They're playing kickball and tag. Looked like they'd been friends for 100 years. I felt like an idiot. I was standing there like, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, what if I don't fit in? What if they make fun of me? What if I get ostracized? And I had this sense of self-centered fear that just came over me. And at that point in time, I could have used a couple of shots. You know what I mean? Because that is exactly what I needed, standing there looking down at this kindergarten class. Because my problem for the next 7 or 8 years was that I didn't have any alcohol. From that moment forward, I had to act as if everything was okay inside me. To act as if I wasn't afraid or anxious or resentful or whatever my emotional state would be at that time. My first drink, I'm about 12 or 13 years old, and I'm hanging out with a couple of guys, and I thought it would be cool to cut school, go back to my mother's house, and get drunk. I knew there was like a liquor closet there. Now, I don't come from an alcoholic family. I had to blow the dust off of this bottle. So there wasn't a lot of drinking. I feel for you if you come from one of those hellacious alcoholic families. But I came from a little Cape Cod house, a mother, a father, a sister, a brother. Cats. I mean, wasn't a big deal. There was never like a harsh word. I was the dysfunction in that family, let me tell you. But anyway, we decided to go back to my house, and I bring down a bottle of Four Roses whiskey. And I don't know anything about drinking. I'm 12, right? But I've seen the John Wayne movies. You know how he busts through the saloon doors and he goes, "Bartender, whiskey!" And the bartender takes a bottle of whiskey and fills up a couple of water glasses or a water glass and hands it to John, and John pounds the water glass down, grabs the bottle, and goes back to the table. So I start pouring out this warm Four Roses whiskey into water glasses and handing it out to my friends. Now, let me tell you what my friends did, and then I'll tell you what I did. My friends had about 2/3 of the glass, and they were good. You ever drink with people like that? I'm good. I'm fine. I'm going home now. What? I live in New Jersey, so it was always like, let's go to the city. It's like 2:00 in the morning. You got to work the next day. So, I never got along with those people who had enough, I'm just going to have two. So anyway, they just had like 2/3 of this glass, and they were fine, and then they watched the show, okay? I drank 3 glasses of this stuff and whatever they had left, and I went into a blackout, my first blackout. Anybody in here familiar with blackouts? They're unnerving, aren't they? especially like when you travel, you wake up in Topeka with one shoe or something, Then you have to act like you really want to be there, because you can't look stupid. But anyway, so I go into a blackout, I trash the house, and I have a hangover. One of those hangovers where you have to stay horizontal for about 2 days, you know what I mean? Just horrible feeling. And if I'd have drank or ate anything besides alcohol and felt that bad, I never would have gone near it again. I would have had an adequate mental defense against it. The problem was that scared kindergartner I was talking to you about. When I hit drink number 2, he disappeared. All of a sudden, I felt larger than life. All of a sudden, I was like the coolest guy. That self-centered fear was gone. And I was funny, and I was cool, and I didn't care what you thought of me. And there was all this freedom that I got from the alcohol. So I started to slowly forget how bad it made me feel, and I started to remember what it did for me. It was the anti-Chris elixir that I'd been looking for my whole life. It was something that would let me actually step out and feel okay about it, and not have all this repressed anxiety. So I started drinking. I wasn't going to ever drink Four Roses again, please. But I started to figure out how to drink it. The drinking age was 21 at that time, and I was 13, so it was problematic, but nothing an alcoholic can't overcome. So I started to figure out, where was I going to buy it? Where was I going to drink it? All this stuff. And I started to become preoccupied with alcohol. Now, I come from a really smart family. My brother and sister are both Phi Beta Kappa PhD professors. My mother and father were, top in their class and educators. And I graduated high school second stupidest kid in my class. They used to say, Chris, you've got so much potential. You ever hear that? Yeah. I wish I could have bottled the potential I had. I would have been all right. But anyway, I started to take Wednesdays off to break up the week, and things like that, And where's Chris? Oh, it's Wednesday. Oh yeah, it's Wednesday. It's his day off. I mean, I became preoccupied with alcohol, and anything that was going to get in the way of my drinking, had to go. So here I am. I'm terrible grades, like D minus grades, and I never thought to myself, like, what was happening was I was getting I never said to myself, wow, Chris, you're getting preoccupied with alcohol. You should take a look at that, because if you keep on this way, you may not get into the college of your choice. I didn't think that. You know what I thought? Who cares is what I thought. That's like the rallying war cry of the active alcoholic. Who cares? So anyway, I get out of high school, just barely get out of it, and I took a year off. It was all too much for me, I guess, at that time. I had to take a year off, and I told one person one time that it was to find myself. He goes, "You weren't looking for anything, especially yourself." So I took a year off, and slowly I started to realize a lot of my friends are going to college. They're like getting jobs. They're growing up. And I just loved the high school parties. You remember the high school parties when alcohol was working? If it was working for any of you? I mean, it was working for me for a while. I mean, I felt great, and I'd have a couple of drinks before I got to the party, and then the music would be loud, there'd be dancing, and there'd be a fight. You'd molest the women, and they'd be okay with it. I mean, it was just a great time, and everybody's gone. The high school is over, and I'm still looking for that party, for that feeling, and everybody's gone. It got to the point where the people I had to hang out with to continue on, they didn't even have real names. They were like Weezer and Green Man. Those are people I ended up partying with at the end. So, I mean, the milkman could have seen that I was on a decline. That my drinking was just wiping me out. But I kept thinking I had everything under control. Well, I hooked up with a marvelous codependent somewhere along the way. I after high school, she thought of me as much as I did. So it worked out great. And She was a perfect. She would she'd pick up all the pieces. After a car crash, she'd go get the car out of impound and all those things that you need done, and bail money and all that. And we ended up setting up house. I moved down to Florida because a friend of mine said, "Chris, you got to get down here, man. You wouldn't believe the parties down here." So I went down there, and I am not a paragon of maturity at this point in time, right? I had absolutely no business being with this person. We ended up getting married, and because she was Catholic, 9 months to the nanosecond later, my daughter was born. You could have set your watch to it. So all of a sudden I've got this family, and I'm like, she wanted me to put insurance on the car and, come home at night and, stop spending the weekend with Weezer and Green Man and all this stuff. It's just unreasonable. Get a job. Get off my back. I just couldn't deal. So that didn't last. I couldn't offer what a family needed. I was, way too into the booze and way too immature. So she left me, and now I'm really drinking because she left me when I needed her most. Is that a great excuse? So I'm shacked up with a couple of one guy's a Quaalude salesman. Another guy's been on unemployment for like 4 years. These are like my roommates, and I'm just drinking. I'm out of my mind drinking. I'm crashing cars. I'm getting DWIs. I'm waking up in jail wondering why I'm there. And I found out that you don't wake up your bunkmate and ask them. They get upset. So I learned a lot in my and never ever say keep in touch to the people that you meet in jail. Oh, that was a hard lesson to learn. Anyway, so she leaves me, and it got to the point where the world was falling in on me. The cops were looking for me. I hadn't done my community service. Hospital bills, ambulance bills. I decide, what are you going to do? I decide, my mother needs a little help around the house back home. I think I'll move back and give my mother some help back at the house, because that's what a macho guy does when you got nothing left to do. So I moved back home with Mom for 8 years. And that was like the last 8 years of my drinking. God bless her. I'm still making amends. But I'm back in town, and somewhere along the line I become an electrician. I don't know how that happened, because I was not a good one. I was a bad electrician. I would blow things up, and I'd drill into your closet and pull your good suits through the ceiling. This one time I'm drilling a hole for new computer cash registers coming around. So I'm drilling a hole in the floor with this big drill with a big auger bit, and it had a locking trigger, and I'm not paying attention because it's the lingerie section of this department store. So I'm preoccupied, and the thing gets away from me. So I bear down on it, and I accidentally lock the trigger, and it spins me around a circle and ties me up in the cord, and the auger bit rips the pants off my ass. So all of a sudden, finally it unplugs from the wall, and I'm tied up to this drill with no pants and in the lingerie section, and everybody's looking at me. And you got to be cool, right? So I'm like, oh, yeah, things always get away from me like this. So I'm like a really bad electrician. Terrible things are happening. This one day I come in and I'm so hungover I can't put the ground screw in the outlet box. And this is how good I'm 33 at this time, okay? This is my career. I'm 33, and the boss put a 19-year-old kid in charge of me. That's how much faith he had in me. So I'm sitting there trying to get this screw in the outlet box, and the 19-year-old kid's looking at me like, you pathetic, no good, no account, because I can tell what he's thinking. When you're an alcoholic, you can hear people thinking at you. So I knew right away what this guy was thinking, and I just couldn't take it. I'd lost a family. I had 3 DWIs. I totaled 9 cars in drunken blackouts. Lost all my friends. Even Weezer and Green Man weren't talking to me anymore. So what did it take? It took not being able to put this screw in an outlet box for me to finally say, I've had enough. And I signed myself into a rehab. I remember got really drunk, get up the courage to make the call. I call them up. I go, I'm coming in. They're like, Well, who are you? First of all, And so anyway, I go into this place, and I did the 28 days, and I got the $13,000 big book and the pat on the butt to AA, and off I went to AA. Now, I didn't understand the first step. I really didn't. I thought the first step was, I need to remember not to drink. I need to remember not to drink. That's what I need to do. So if I go to a couple of AA meetings every week, that'll remind me not to drink. Well, I didn't have a clue what the first step was. I was going to 2 AA meetings and 2 outpatient meetings, and I got to tell you, I wanted to stay away from booze as much as anybody ever wanted to stay away from booze. I had a desire to not drink anymore. Let me tell you, it was killing me. I wasn't even pushed into the rehab. I voluntarily went in because I knew I needed help. I voluntarily went to outpatient and paid $35 a night to hear some muttonhead talk about their personal problems, and hopefully get something out of it. And on this went. I'm going to AA meetings. It's like castor oil treatment to me. Going to an AA meeting was just really tough. It was not fun for me. But that's how much I wanted to stay separated from alcohol. Now, on the way to an AA meeting one day, the thought crosses my mind. I haven't been drunk in almost 90 days. I hardly can remember what it's like to be drunk. And I'm not really doing a lot in the AA. That they've got some other suggestions, and I don't really. I bet you if I bought a gallon of vodka, took it home and drank it, I'd do AA better. So I bought a gallon of vodka and drank it to improve my sobriety. Imagine running that one by your sponsor. And of course I didn't have one. So 6 months later, Christmas at the Schroeder's. Okay, this is 1989. My mother's there, brother, sister, nieces, nephews, cats, the whole deal. They're all there for Christmas, and I start drinking, and I go into a violent blackout where I threaten all their lives. It's Christmas. I'm gonna kill all of you. I'm gonna kill every one of you. And that really wasn't the festive type of spirit everybody was looking for. So they picked up their Christmas and they took it elsewhere. Thank you. I come out of this blackout. It's like a multi-day blackout. I come out of it and I'm shaking, and I go in the kitchen and there's a pile of vodka bottles in the sink like this. I don't even remember buying them. Must have been some site, because I used to buy 1 bottle at a time because I might quit. You ever do that when you're smoking? You buy like 1 pack at a time because you might quit tomorrow. So it must have been a site, just going back and forth uptown getting the vodka. Anyway, I start to go into the DTs. Anybody in here ever have the DTs? You know what I'm talking about. It's not pretty. There was animals running around the room, and there was things scratching on the side of the house to try to get in, and the slip covers had maggots and bugs all over it, and I'm laying there, and a demon comes out of the ceiling. Really, really great stuff. And I remember when I saw the demon, I just screamed out, "God help me!" like that. And it was the first humble asking from God for anything that I think I can remember. And I really meant it, because I was absolutely desperate. And I haven't had a drink since then. Now, after I finally got to the point where I could get out, I knew I needed to get to an AA meeting. Had to get back to AA. But the car I had at that time was a 1976 Ford Granada with no clutch, no parking brake, no heater core, no muffler. So I was busy. I didn't have time really to fix this thing. You know how we are. So because there's no clutch, I have to find a meeting that's flat. So I'm looking at a book, and I've got to find a Sunday night meeting that's flat. I find this meeting in Morristown, New Jersey, and I get there, and this car is just a piece of crap, one of those Quaalude cars. Anyway, I come pulling up, and there's a church, similar to this, and there's all kinds of steps outside, and a million of my peers are outside having a cigarette. Now, I have to pull in, and I have to go up the hill a little bit to get into the parking lot. There's no clutch, right? No muffler. So I've got to gun this thing to get up this tiny little incline. So I got to go, blah! Just to go like up 4 feet. And you can see the people like standing there on the stairs like, look at me. Must be a new guy, And And I had to go park the car against a tree because it had no parking brake, and I was afraid it'd roll away while I was in the meeting. So, anyway, I'm in the meeting. I'm in the meeting now. I'm terror stricken from this detox. You know, I mean, I'm shattered. And I sit down, and I don't realize it, but it's a step meeting, and everybody's reading a paragraph out of the step book, and they're coming down the aisle at me, right? I'm like, oh my God, I can't even hold the book, let alone read a paragraph. So what do? I got the hell out of there. I went outside, and I'm standing on the steps, and I'm smoking a cigarette, and I'm thinking to myself, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to do AA? Am I going to be able to stay here? Because I know if I don't stay here, I'm going to die. Do I have to go die? Is there going to be a way to stay? I mean, it was one of those real pivotal moments for me. And this guy, I'll never forget, this guy named Jorge comes out, and he starts asking me some questions like, what's going on with you? And I'm like, relapse, demons, just terrible. And he goes, well, I'll tell you what. Well, come on back into the meeting with me, and, tomorrow, there's this meeting tomorrow in my hometown, and I was going to go to this meeting tomorrow. And he knew what tomorrow meant. You know what tomorrow means. He knew what tomorrow meant. So he insisted. He said, no, you're coming back into the meeting. And he drags me back in. He sits me down in the second row. And by now, the sharing had started, and people are raising their hands and sharing. And he looks at me and he goes, now raise your hand and tell everybody you're coming back. And I'm like, well, tomorrow, there's this meeting tomorrow. Everybody introduces himself as no. You know. He goes, raise your hand and tell it. He's starting to get loud now, so people are looking at me. And you know what happens after they start looking at you? It's not just a minute later they're going to be thinking at you. So I got to do something. So I shoot my hand up right in the middle of somebody sharing. And, the person in the front's a little confused, but, cuts the person off. And shuts the person up and then calls on me. And I said something like this. Oh, this is Chris. I'm going out there drinking, relapse, demons, just terrible. Thank you. And everything's quiet for a minute. And then all of a sudden it was, yay! They all start cheering, I'm thinking, my God, this is the lowest point in my life. And everybody's like happy for me. And they're smiling, and I can just, and I had problems until I listened to you. I could hear him. So, anyway, I got myself a sponsor. I got myself a home group. I did what they asked me to do because everything else, the other things were just, I couldn't even imagine going on the way I was going on. So I got myself a sponsor, and I started to get really active in AA. I mean, really active. I was doing maybe 14 meetings a week. I was a secretary over here. I was driving the boobies from the hatch to the meeting over there. And I was doing everything you could do. I was a coffee maker. And sometimes the tugboats with the most steam pull the boats. So I was slowly giving good share. So people were like asking me to sponsor them. So I'm getting really active. But that scared little kindergartner is still inside me. The emotional unmanageability is still on me. I still get really resentful. I still have a lot of self-centered fear. I've got guilt and remorse out the wazoo. All this stuff. I'm just burdened with self. You know what I mean? But I'm doing everything in AA, so I'm sober, but I'm not recovered. And this guy, Radio Shack Mike, we used to nickname everybody back then. This Radio Shack Mike gave me a bunch of tapes. This one time he gave me some Louise Hay tape, affirmation tapes, where you're supposed to plug it in and say to yourself in front of a mirror, Chris, you're a wonderful guy. Chris, you're a wonderful guy. And you're supposed to do it until you believe it. Like I remember breaking the tape in half. I mean, like I'm an insane alcoholic. Trying to treat my alcoholism with an affirmation tape is like trying to stop a semi with a cobweb. You know what I mean? So I don't trust him, but he comes back to me. He comes back to me with these tapes, and he goes, you're hardcore, man. You might like these guys. I go, who are they? He goes, a couple of guys, Joe and Charlie from Arkansas. I'm like, Arkansas? I'm from the Northeast. We do more thinking before 9 o'clock than an Arkansasian does all day. What are they going to tell me? But I have a long ride to work. Okay, so I've got some time. So I start plugging these tapes in. And here's what they told me. They said, Chris, you don't have a program. Everything you're doing is fellowship. You're fellowshipping out the gazoo, but you don't have a program. And if you don't get a program and you're alcoholic, you're going to die. So I've got my first big resentment in AA. Listening to these tapes, I put them off to the side like, what do they know? But I'll tell you what, there's a place in the big book that talks about if we've disturbed you about your alcoholism, this is all to the good. And that's what Joe and Charlie did. They disturbed me about my alcoholism. And I had to come to terms with the fact that I didn't have a program. The steps, absolutely. This is a 12-step program. This is not a meeting program. It's a 12-step program. So somewhere about 6 months later, I take these tapes out because in my area in 1989 and 1990, there weren't a lot of big book meetings. There weren't a lot of big book workshops. There weren't a lot of sponsors that would take you over to their house and take you through the big book. That wasn't what they did back then. So I remember listening to these tapes and opening up the big book and to the best of my ability doing the resentment inventory and the fear inventory and the harms to others inventory. And then I got together a list of people that I had harmed, and I went out and to the best of my ability made direct amends to those people. And I actually started to work a program. And I started to feel a lot better. I mean, incredibly. That bondage itself started to dissipate. Now, I had been sponsoring a number of people, and they were drinking on me. You ever have sponsees drink on you, make you look bad? Well, I didn't want to deal with that, so I started bringing them over to my house and doing what I did with this, opening up the big book and going through the big book with these guys. And I found out something very significant. The people who went through the process with me, not only did they get sober, but they're all still around. They're all card-carrying AA members in good standing, and their quality of life is out of the atmosphere. They're amazing things are happening to them. Am I grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous? I got to tell you, there's nothing I'm more grateful for. I was a bad electrician when I first got sober. I've worked my way up to managing a pretty big piece of business. I've got like 60 employees. Let me tell you, you wouldn't put me in charge of a lemonade stand, when I was new. So things are going great there. I ended up meeting a wonderful woman in recovery. Boy meets girl on AA campus, and trouble soon follows. Met, absolute wonder. We've been married 11 years now, and that's just absolutely amazing. And she sponsors a million women, and you come over to our house, and somebody's going through the steps, or somebody's in crisis, or the phone's ringing. I mean, we have a real recovery house. And some of the people who've been over there say it's just a safe, wonderful, comforting place. And that's the exact opposite of wanting to kill everybody over Christmas, I mean, if there's a lot of people who've raised their hand with under 90 days. There's two things that's absolutely true in your case that you don't believe right now. One of them is you're in much more trouble than you think you are. If you're under 90 days, you are minimizing like a sumbitch. Okay? Alcoholism is much worse than you're giving it credit for. The second truth is there's more answers in Alcoholics Anonymous than you believe there are. There are answers in Alcoholics Anonymous for practically everything. As I started working the steps and as I started to recover, I started to be able to deal with other things in my life, with the other things that I thought were separate from my alcoholism. So if you are new and you're coming back, and it seems like life is dealing you a rotten hand, let me tell you, positive actions result in positive results, and that's really what Alcoholics Anonymous is. It's spiritual living 101. So I encourage everybody that's in here under 90 days to stay. It's not okay to leave Alcoholics Anonymous and go out there and have alcoholism trash your life again. It's not okay. It's much better to stay in here. Find yourself a sponsor who's experienced with the steps, and then become of service. Find ways to become of service. This group is just unbelievable with the service. I wish my group was half as involved with service commitments and things like this. Again, I want to thank Vince for asking me to come in tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure and honor to speak at your group, and God bless all of you.